Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful repeat guest is Denise Shad. We had a wonderful conversation last year about her book, Poetry That Speaks to the Soul and Awakens the Spirit, Illuminate. And, we really dug deep down in that show, and it was really very beautiful, and it is about the awakening. And she's 15 years, she's owned personal training studio where she was unknowingly using her gift to sense out what was not functioning properly in her clients' bodies and correcting it with exercise. And during that time she became a certified life coach. She has studied Reiki. She's at Reiki level 1 certification, yoga instructor. Um, she's a Rishikesh yoga in Rishikesh, India. And she's really immersed herself in all of the teachings. And those teachings have brought her about not only to that beautiful book, but to our topic today, which is living from the heart instead of the mind. It's the journey, a descent from the mind to the heart. What do we mean by that? Well, we all know this is the noggin that has the data. It has knowledge, but if you don't have the wisdom from the heart and soul on how to use that knowledge, all you're doing is running around with what ifs. And so how do we shut the mind off and listen to the heart and the soul and choose positive living? Uh, well, Denise, we've got our work cut out of us for today. How are you doing, love?
I'm doing well, and this is I spontaneously chose this topic today because this is has been my journey
Mm-hmm.
and my experience in 2019 up until now. And we talk about the awakening, which is just becoming aware
Yeah,
that we are unaware.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then when I talk about the actual transformation, it is the death of the ego, the ego
Mm. Bye-bye,
and
ego.
by ego, and the journey. And I am writing my second book right now. I'm
Yay.
almost done.
Good, good,
Um,
good.
and this piece happens to be it's my memoir of my life, but also in writing that it's a way for me to understand my own process,
Mm-hmm.
my own journey of the things that happened, and not only why but what they were for.
Yeah.
And what I was writing about is and I think this really applies to the world today. um, really up until probably 4 years ago, I really didn't understand the distinguish between the external world,
Yeah.
meaning the material world, which is the system which we have been living in, that has been keeping us suppressed from our heart's true desires.
Yes. Yes.
And what I was writing about is the ego is the one that's addicted to this material world, this identity of being successful and wealthy and having and getting. And that's not what the heart is about. And in this chapter, as I was writing, my heart was calling me
Mm.
for so long. And during this time in my life, when I was letting go of the material world, and letting go, and I think the letting go of the mind comes in increments.
Yes.
It's not something that just happens, but incrementally, this was probably the largest shift, was recognizing that I was not my things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was in what was going on inside of my head as I was deconstructing. What do you mean
Mhm.
I'm not this role I play as a personal trainer or successful business owner? What do you mean these material things don't really matter? And I knew that I didn't want these material things in my life at the time. And I was watching my mind freak me out because I would go home every night and I would sit in my heart center, and my heart would say, be patient,
Yeah.
wait.
Mhm.
And then I would go back out into that external world, and I'd be back up in the head, freaked out. What do you mean I have to wait? What do you mean I have to wait?
Yeah.
Um, and slowly, what I recognized is that I was following,
Mhm.
and my ego mind knew it.
Yes. Surrender.
And it would freak out,
Mhm.
as every time I got closer and closer to the surrender.
Mhm.
So here we are 4 years later, and the surrendering was happening a little by little as I dismantled my illusion that this material world was all there was, this external world. And with what has been provided is that the internal world is our own unique universe, which is
Mhm.
located in the heart.
Yes.
And that's what we're creating right now, is this new world, meaning we are coming inward. And
Mhm.
now we get to decide what we want in our world. And now as we begin to awaken to our train of thinking and what that does to us, we, as soon as the thought comes in, because the thoughts are still going to come.
Oh, yeah, you can't, they slow and diminish, but they're still going to be there. It's
It's
natural reactionary of the human self, right?
exactly, but you are aware of it right when it
Yeah.
happens. And you can choose in that moment, oh, I'm not in my heart center. That's my head. That's not me.
Mhm.
And really what I discovered was that for most of my life, I believed I was my mind. That's who I was.
Well, that was the expectation, the intellectualism. You were governed by the intellect of your mind, which then equaled the success that you had in life, and that was your self-importance. And we've realized that when you connect with the heart and soul, the spirit ignites, and the self-importance of the ego, of the expectation, no longer matters. It's not the forefront, it's not the driver in the seat. The heart and soul is. And then you actually understand what the mind needs to know when the mind needs to know it, because the wisdom understands how to use the knowledge, right? But we've been trained so much that the intellectualism of our mind and all the PhDs and the DBDs and the blah blah blah, is sets our importance of who we are. And no, that is what you've accomplished. But if you don't know how to use it, you're not using it in your truth.
Right, right. And self mastery
Mm,
is the mastering of the mind,
yeah.
meaning the understanding of what the mind's for. I
Yes.
mean, I can't, I'm unable to do my intuitive energy healing without my mind.
Hmm. It's telling you. Your
It,
intuition is telling your mind what it needs to do in this moment, but it's not mind first.
no, no. And the mind always wants to come first. And what I started to discover is that the soul is connected to the ego mind. And in our psyche, all of our healing work is in the psyche, in the soul, in the mind. And when I'm saying descent, it's the soul coming down from living from the mind and joining the spirit at the heart.
The soul cannot speak through a closed heart.
And it
The
cannot.
soul,
Yes.
it
Go.
has to have an open heart in order for the soul to be heard, for the spirit to be ignited, for the mind to be opened. So if your heart is all closed up, you're not going to receive that divine wisdom, and you're going to be going around like a treadmill constantly in the mind. But when you open up that heart and the soul can come in and ignite that spirit, then the mind, again, the clarity of understanding what that knowledge is there is so important. But
Mhm.
you have to open that heart.
And that was the experiences with the teacher from India.
Mm, yes.
That was, I look at every relationship as a student teacher experience. As you and I are having this conversation today, we are igniting each other and planting seeds in each other, and we will yet to know what they are. Maybe
Right.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
maybe next week.
Yeah.
But that's what I see more and more of understanding, is that this is how we're meant
Yeah.
to come together and teach and learn. It's not about me paying you and you paying me to do something for me.
Right. Exactly.
It's about just us coming together on this in this heart space. We are helping each other in ways we don't
In a synergy, in a harmony
even
that ignites us, that allows us. And,
know.
we don't know whose growth is important in that moment, right?
Oh,
The reason why the orchestra has a soloist, because that soloist is the lead in that particular number. And then it might be the triangle is the most important, or the drums, or the bass, or whatever else that might be the conductor, the leader in the next number. And that's the thing, is that everybody's vying, because we've been conditioned to, we've got to be the soloist to be important. That orchestra is not an orchestra. It's not a harmonious orchestra without everybody being in sync and respecting each other's instrument, and understand it is the coming together that creates the harmony.
that's beautifully said. Beautifully. And that was, as I was saying, that was the reason for that teacher. That I
Hmm.
was ready to open my heart.
Yeah.
And that first opening of the heart came from the willingness to receive love in that moment,
Hmm. Receive love.
to receive the love that this being, who just happened to look like a guru from India,
Yeah.
right? The love was just disguised as that. But that first opening allowed me to hear the voice for the next pieces,
Mm.
because only the heart just needs to crack a little to hear the
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah, exactly. Let
Just
that light in, let that sound in, right? It's like giving birth,
yes,
right? And it's dilating slowly, bit by bit, until a rebirth. You're there. You don't want to dilate from 1 to 10 all at once. It's too much to take in. So, yeah. So the process is meant to be steady and slow, because for you to be able to transition in balance and not at extreme, because in this world there aren't the extremes, are there?
no,
It is about the balance of maintaining a rhythm.
and
And if you have extremes, you're out of sync.
and those out of syncs means you come back into the mind,
Yeah.
pulled back up.
Yeah.
You're operating from this system instead of this system.
And what is this system all about? It's about doubt. It's about
Here,
misunderstanding. It's about assumption. It's about fear. It's about a sense of lack,
yep,
because
suffering.
that's what we're conditioned with all the time. But when you come from the heart and you really truly immerse in your heart and soul, you know you're enough. You
Mhm.
know that, you will be guided to knowing what you need to know. And it's a whole totally different feeling of abundance, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. You know what I found interesting? The cracking open came in these different waves. And at first, it was that feeling of abundance and
Mhm.
of joy and happiness, and making a decision that I was happy.
Yeah.
But and then as it evolved, that sense of love recently is is not what my mind thought it was.
Right.
It's not about, oh, I love you and
Mm.
hearts and roses and stars and tons of light.
And kumbaya.
It's not that. Actually, there was a moment of a lot of pain
Mm-hmm.
from the sadness,
Mm.
from not only the disconnection from the spirit, but also the sadness of the one.
Mm.
I began to feel everything,
Yes.
everything. And then there was that up and down roller coaster ride of all those emotions and feelings of the collective, of the
Yes.
one.
Yes.
And I had a teacher once say to me, she asked me if what I thought of Jesus. And I told her, and at the moment she said, if you believe in Jesus, then you believe in God. So part of my journey was, what do you really believe in? What is your
Mm.
source? I always knew it was God, but erasing that image of
Yes.
that man with the
Yeah.
beard, right? But the other thing she said is that Jesus gets weary too. And what that said to me is, when I was going through that sadness and that connection and the feeling of the one, that's a lot
Yes, it is. It can be
to
overwhelming.
to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it created some depression,
Yeah.
some weariness.
Yes.
Then I began to enter into a space where I was neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the heart is neutral. There's not that high of love, and
Mm-hmm.
there's not that low of sadness. You're in balance.
Mm-hmm.
You become in harmony. And for a human, there's no drama.
Yeah.
So now there was a period of, I'm kind of bored.
Where's the soap opera? Where the soap opera of my life.
And this is how we get pulled back into the
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Because life gets good, we start to feel good, and we're calm. And all we have to do is walk out our front door and talk to somebody. And the next thing we know, we get pulled back into the mind, the drama, the chaos, the
Mm-hmm.
story of whatever we choose in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then recognizing that you've gotten pulled out. And sometimes that can be a couple of days.
Yes. Well, I mean, that goes the same with the news, doesn't it? The thing is, if you are really strong in your core strength, then that takes some time to get there. You can, I'm an empath, I'm a kinesthetic person. I feel a great deal, and I had to very consciously put those boundaries around me of, I can only feel at this particular energy hertz. Anything lower than that really starts eating away at me. And that is also the news, the hate for social media. But I'm a firm believer that, what you feed is what will grow. And the algorithm of social media, as it is with life, is the more you feed the positivity, more you feed the love, the more you feed the harmony, the more that is going to grow. So if you find yourself caught up in that drama again, which some people thrive in, they're having way good a time in there to do any effort to come out and go into heart. Um, then you realize, okay, hang on, I'm literally around the wrong energy and I need to remove myself from it, whoever it is.
whoever it is.
Yeah,
And that's where the journey of the heart sometimes can be lonely,
yeah,
because now for me it's about finding that frequency and
yeah.
finding those people that resonate with me at that frequency, because
Tribe.
our tribe,
Yeah.
because what we have been trained from the mind to believe
Hmm.
is that old saying, misery loves company. You have to be
Yes,
miserable with them all, right?
yes.
And that what I noticed is that all of my life, I've known at the core of my being, of my
Yeah,
heart,
yeah.
that I'm a good person, that
Yeah.
I am good. And this is what I feel has been suppressed by the journey of the mind,
Mm.
is the belief of their own goodness.
Yes.
And I have 10 grandchildren.
Ah, I've only got one.
Oh,
A new one,
wait.
1 week old.
Oh, and there's four of them that are the age of 10 and 11. And I've been watching this progression as they've been growing up, of them disconnecting from their goodness.
Yeah, it's sad that, isn't it? Yes. They get
And
caught up in the
it
whirlwind. Oh,
and
no.
they're sad.
Yes.
They're very sad right now at this age.
Yes.
So the beautiful thing is I resonate with the kids. They're at my frequency,
Hmm.
right? They're at my frequency of joy and happiness and love and innocence. That's the heart,
Mm.
that innocence. And that is what we've lost
Yeah.
in the journey of the mind.
With our children that go into teenage years, but they used to be such a happy child. I don't know why, they're like this now. And it is because they do lose that wonderful connection to their divine source. They get caught up in the expectation, the popularity, the must live up to. And if we could teach them right from the word go, that is a facade. That is an illusion. That is going to take you down the rabbit hole, of which is going to be a big struggle coming back again. Don't go down there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I talk to them in little increments.
Yeah,
And I live in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas on my husband's family ranch, which is a 600-acre ranch.
nice,
And the grandkids come here
nice.
to recreate. But when I take them out into nature.
Yes, that's teacher.
That's teacher.
Yes.
And the kids love to come and do art projects.
Mhm.
Well, my house is only so big for these art projects.
Right.
So I've created, there's an area in the ranch that is, I call it the enchanted forest.
Mm.
The forest is old and there's moss and there's ferns growing. And since the children were little, we have the fairy tree.
Hmm.
So all of their art projects are hung on the fairy tree.
Beautiful.
And they get to go and stay in that imagination,
Yeah.
which is our biggest tool to journey in the heart.
Let's stop there for a moment because I really want us to really dive more deeper into that. The creativity, the possibilities, and the dimensional travel of a child is absolutely wondrous. And then we beat it out of them. It's time for you to grow up. Time for you to take responsibility. Time for you to buckle down. And we don't realize what harm we're doing to society with those time twos. The more we keep feeding that imagination, that creativity, that connection to planet, to the cosmos, to the possibilities, the more that is going to grow with them, and the creation of who and what they will be and what they will bring will be extraordinary. we're doing a disservice to them by demanding that they now conform. Conform to what? Let's look at society. It's dysfunctional. I haven't interviewed anybody that hasn't gone through a whole pile of shoot and having to find a rebirth and a rediscovery of themselves because they adhered to the conditions and the should haves. If we bring our children out to say, hey, should have, bye. What am I doing from my core self that feels right, that I know is right, not only for me, but for whom I serve? We bring them up in that service, not servitude, but service to one another, to planet, to the cosmos. We are going to have such an extraordinary world.
It's a beautiful, beautiful world you described, because that's the time that we're in, is our ability to create whatever world we want.
Yes.
Because the external world that we've been trained to believe is true is not true. That's the illusion.
Fake TV.
Fake TV. I always share this as I have had my rebirths, and each time we rebirth, we're entering into a different level of consciousness.
Yes.
And entering into another dimension within ourselves. And each one of those dimensions requires an attunement to the physical body to acclimate to this higher level of consciousness. So for me, sometimes I lose my vision for days at a time. When people ask me to describe this, I ask them, if you've ever been to Disneyland, to California land, there's one fake street that you walk on that actually puts up a fake sky. And you can feel that it's fake because you're walking towards it and it's stationary. It's not moving.
Right.
That's what it's like when we start to enter different levels of consciousness. What we believed was true stays stationary, and you begin to see through it.
Yes.
And you begin to see that the light of your true nature. Now, if we look at the sky, then that's the truth.
Right. Well, I mean, life is meant to be in flow. If it's not moving, if the energy isn't moving around it, if it's literally not breathing, if it's not in flow, it's not real. Stagnation is, a fermentation that leads us down into a sewage. We need the flow of life. We need the constant movement. The sky is a great indicator of that. The clouds constantly moving, the breeze shivering of the leaves, the water constantly lapping against the shore, the earth vibrating beneath our feet. Everything is constantly moving, and so is the blood and the oxygen and everything in our body. And so should our minds be. Stagnancy is a killer.
Yes. And as the heart opens more and more, there is a place where there is no thought.
Isn't it lovely?
Believe it or not.
Yes.
And sure, the practices of all those practices of meditation and clearing my energy field, all of those things contributed.
Yeah.
But they also created an illusion. Because the self is meant to activate when it's meant to activate. It's already there.
Yeah. Just a switch.
It's just a matter of, is it the meeting of the right person? Is it the right trauma? Is it the particular event that will finally ignite the ignition of the DNA in yourselves that are already meant to arrive at a certain point
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times I willed it from the mind to be so.
The mind is it's our database, it's our computer, but it is our receiver. And it's a two-way street with our heart and soul. The mind needs to open up in permission for the heart and soul to be ignited. And the heart and soul will speak to the mind and ask it to open up to receive. So, when you get an idea, where did this idea come from? Is it from the mind? Is it from all the data that you've been given? Or is it the heart and soul that's been giving you the knowledge? And the thing is, it's a combination of both. The heart and soul has ignited this idea, but the intellect and the knowledge of the mind has understood what that image is, that gift is, and it understands now what to do with it. We're not telling people to be mindless. We're
No.
telling people to be mindful by incorporating the intellect of the heart, soul, and spirit, because now you're functioning on all four cylinders.
Yes.
And the
And
body knows how to respond, right?
the body is
Yes.
an intricate piece to that,
Yes.
because my journey, because of the amount of wonderful experiences, and I'm exaggerating here, uh, my
Wonderful.
the wonderful experiences that I so chose, my soul chose,
Mhm.
overactivated
Yeah.
my nervous system in my body. And I think for me, that kept the mind busy.
Mm,
And really, before the heart could respond,
mm.
the rest of my body had to trust,
Yeah.
had to begin to relax, so that my mind could begin to relax enough to allow the heart space to open for this union to begin.
Nothing happens when everything's clenched.
Nope.
And the mind shut down, the body is like this, the heart is concaved. This is where take a breath, loosen the shoulders, let everything in your body just calm down. You can't think straight, you can't feel straight, you can't hear straight. If everything about you is tense, and our body's reaction like this is generally one of, I don't know what to do, I'm panicked, I'm fearful, I don't, where's the knowledge? Well, the knowledge is right there. Just relax. It's all there, but it's not going to come to you when you close the doors with clenched fists and a clenched body.
So it really, to relate this to what people are probably experiencing right now, because there's an urgency.
Yeah.
There has been. I feel it's exciting
Yes.
somewhat,
Extremely.
but that for me, recognizing the tension
Mhm.
in my own physical body, and I usually feel it in my jaw, is there's a shift coming
Yes.
and you're resisting it.
Yeah.
And that's my body's way of telling me, to
Yes.
breathe, to
Yes.
breathe. But when we are in the heart space, what's interesting, there is no breath.
The heart has a rhythm, right? And the breath follows it.
Yes.
That's the thing. As the heart is beating, our rhythm of our breath goes with it.
Mhm.
When we're in doubt and in fear, we clench and our brain gets into panic and the jaw tightens up.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, a fact actually to do with COVID, so many people have ended up with jaw problems because they've been clenching their jaw, gritting, bearing it, and going through everything, and they don't realize that the jaws have been clenched, and it's caused headaches and it's caused all sorts of things and grinding of teeth, and a lot of people are just going through that. I admit there was a phase I was like that. I'm like, okay, all right, do some exercises, loosen up that jaw. Right?
And
Going back to what you were saying in the beginning, aware.
yeah, yeah. And what I have, the experiences for me with has been with the jaw, is it's an indicator that something's ready to shift.
Mm-hmm.
You're ready to shed some more of the energy that you've been carrying around on a cellular level in your physical body,
Yeah.
which also brings on the emotions and the
Mm.
feeling. The heart's the feeler.
Yes.
Now you open that heart up, and your responsibility with an open heart is to feel.
Yes.
You begin to navigate the world by feeling, and the feelings show up in different parts of the body. I think for everyone, it's
It's different.
probably different.
Yeah.
And noticing, for me, when I notice the shift of the energy physically, there will be a pulling in the lower belly, and
Mm.
the energy begins to rise and
Yes.
rise, and there's a heat. And then there might be a image of
Mm.
an experience. There might not be. These emotions are just energy that
Yeah.
want to keep moving.
Yeah. That they need to be spent. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of an athlete that, they're about to run and you notice that their body at the line is kind of, they're tensed and they're focused, right?
Mhm.
And then just before that gun, right? So we're there, we're at that, we know there's change coming, we know there's another energy shift and it's going to escalate quite considerably, and we know that it's all in process, and our bodies are in anticipation, but we can't receive it and we can't go with it until we relax and allow.
Mhm. Receiving.
Hmm. A big one
Receiving.
in that. Receiving.
It's not what we think either.
No.
You think of receiving as opening up the crown and
Yeah.
letting the energy flow. And no, the receiving is more about allowing.
Yes.
It's a, it's a,
No
it's a,
dictatorship, no
no,
ordering, just allow. Hmm.
just allow. And the energy moves in whatever way it wants to move.
And it
Because
has a
once
purpose. It has a
it has a
purpose.
purpose.
Yes,
And guess what? I don't know what that purpose is.
it will be revealed.
And when the heart is open, now you're the conduit.
Yes.
You're the conduit, and to allow the energy to flow freely through you from your source. And we talk about, coming into the heart is coming into your own universe, coming into your own world, your own creation. That's the creation. And the mind creates this illusion, well, I'm going to have this kind of life,
Hmm.
and it's not that. Now you're living in this inner world where there is darkness.
Hmm.
And part of that first book of poetry, of Illuminate, was about the relationship with the darkness,
Hmm.
because without that there is no light.
I went through a good many years in my life where I retreated into the darkness, and it was running away from the pain, the external pain, the internal pain, the transitional pain. And
Mm.
I could see the light, and I wasn't ready to go back out into it. I wasn't necessarily afraid of it, but at the same time, it was suppressing me. I came out into the light, kind of feeling shadows chasing me and a little blinded at first. But the more I allowed myself that light and the shadows diminished, I happily go into the darkness now without any fear, for I realize I am the light.
Light. Yes, that's well said, because part of the journey is to be with the shadow, with the
Yes,
darkness. That's part of the journey, and
it's the
that's also
contouring of a picture, isn't it?
yes,
Right? It's
yes,
the kind of, that's what kind of makes it the 3D effect, is all that shadowing and that shading and everything else, right?
yep, yep. And there can be no light.
Hmm.
See the light without the contrast of the
Hmm.
darkness.
Exactly.
And this is the part I think that the mind has made the meaning that if you are the darkness, then you are the badness that goes with the darkness.
Why does darkness always have to be bad? Whose perception is that? I love going into the darkness. It's a peaceful place to be. I
Yeah.
travel up into the universe and I am amongst everything and nothing in stillness and silence and beingness. We give darkness such a bad rap because in the fear of the darkness, this is where the myth of the darkness and all the yeah, yes, there are supernatural things. I've experienced them. I've experienced darkness. That darkness wasn't the place of darkness. It was the darkness that I opened up to within my own heart and soul. I went into the lower vibrations and not into the higher vibrations. But let's let's stop giving darkness a bad rap. It's a wonderful place to be. It's very peaceful.
And that's what it's like when you enter into the heart.
Yes.
There's only space and there's only darkness.
Yeah.
And I can remember,
It's like
a
the
lot
womb.
of,
Like the womb.
like the womb, right?
Yes.
And I can remember the misconception of the mind was, oh, you go sit in these yoga classes and they tell you, focus on the light, focus on the light. And I'm like, there is no light.
Yeah.
Right? I thought I was missing something.
Mm.
Yet the heart was already open.
Yes.
But my perception of the relationship with it was that that meant that there was nothing home. Well, there wasn't, but not in the as we discover coming into the heart, there's that space and it's quiet and you float.
It's like a big deep breath. It's an exhale. It's just nothing's worrying you there.
And I think
Worrying you.
I think I say this because I think that's part of what had, at least it's what happened for me, is when you start entering into that space, you're going, oh, but I've been living in this my whole life.
Yes. You literally grew in that darkness.
Which tells us that we were never disconnected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless we disconnected ourselves, or we didn't disconnect, we shut off. It was a valve that we shut off within us. And it was constantly knocking to come out, to be the yin yang of us. And in our own fear, which a lot of it is, the societal teachings of the darkness, you go into the darkness, it's going to be the place where the boogeyman will get you. And, we've been conditioned with that, we're afraid of something, that we were born out of darkness into the light, right? And it's like, okay, let's rephrase it. Let's relook at it.
And as the sensitive, empathic one, we've known this all along.
We have, but the head wouldn't allow us to know it.
The head wouldn't allow, and I have had distinct memories of even being 3 years old and watching the light dissipate because the conditioning of the mind was already beginning to happen at that early of an age.
Yes. I had a wonderful gentleman on yesterday who is a psychic, and he has been all his life. And basically, from the age of 9, he's just been a reader. He's just been able to see, and he decided to give me a little mini reading afterwards, and which was wonderful. Long time since I've been read for, and I was a very sickly child, and so my world was an awful lot of alone time. I got my meals, but other than that, I was on my own, and it could be very, very lonely. And of course, the imagination came in. But for me, that's when I opened up to the dimensional traveling. And he said, you had to go through that to understand the loneliness versus the aloneness, but also to be able to travel, play with dead people, go into different dimensions, all very, very normal for me. although I had absolutely no understanding that I was doing, I was just doing it. I'm a child, right? Uh, and that was what prepared me, opened up my soul and heart in this lifetime, which healed past lifetimes and allowed me to do the work I'm doing today. Sometimes those dark spaces that we quote, quote, go into, those areas where we feel trapped, they're there to teach us, the process of going through it, but also to redirect us into a direction that we really do need to go with. And so, our minds want to fight it. Yes, but if I just think positive, this is going to change. Or if I just do this, and it's like depression. Don't tell someone to snap out of it, right? There is something beyond the mind that is going on. Depression isn't just a mind disease. It is a dysfunction of connection, but very often it's a reconnection in that dysfunction. Haglass rune chaotic, right? In order to come out into clarity. So it was a gift for me to go through that. Though as a child, I felt loneliness, right? And as an adult, as a human, I went through, but I was so alone at that time. But as more I've immersed into the heart and space, I realized how much I love my alone time. I'm not lonely anymore. I'm not lonely anymore at all because I am never alone. I've gone back into that childhood of understanding that you're always connected to something. So we get our gifts in different ways, right? We get our knowledge in different ways.
We do, and I recognize that part of my journey was to be able to face the truth of that dark.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest truths is some of those perceived notions of what darkness is was me.
Yes. Yeah.
Then that was probably the last big push I had during the support of the energies that we've had for the last 3 months, was to really go there and see that it's all been me.
Yeah. Yeah. Tuning in.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Because we play the role of every experience we have, and every individual in that experience is us. And as I have been facing these last fragments of my own shadows, and I write about a lot of these experiences in my book, and where that identification came from, and the forgiveness, the interesting forgiveness between the heart and the soul. It was an interesting dialogue of watching the soul ask for forgiveness from the spirit, and the spirit asking for forgiveness from the soul. And back and forth they went, and the emotional roller coaster of understanding that the spirit was apologizing for asking the soul to have those experiences.
Yeah.
And the soul asking for forgiveness for disconnecting from spirit to have those experiences.
Yeah.
All happening inside of the heart.
Yeah. Experiences is what we're here for.
That's it.
Everything is an experience, whether it's a positive or a negative one. A negative one has just as much as importance as a positive one. We say that emotions are an indication of what we're going through, of that experience. It is for you to understand why that emotion has come out, what experience you're going through that is making you feel that way, so you can go through it, experience the experience, spend the experience. Don't get stuck in it. Don't become emotional about it, because that's when we go to drama.
Yep.
And that's when we go to fear and ego and everything else. And it's like, you can't get through life without things happening that are going to scare you, or are going to stop you in your tracks, or are going to flatten you where you have to redirect. But they all are there for a reason.
Mm-hmm. when you said that about scare you, uh, I I had to laugh because I uh, I love riding motorcycles, and I have a dirt bike and I have a street bike, and one of the things is scaring myself.
Little adrenaline rush.
That little rush, it's like
I,
so.
I had one of those experiences that lasted a lifetime. It was pebbles away from death. And after that experience, it was okay. I've had my bike experience now.
So it's a fine line to find, like anything, that balance of
Well, no,
where.
that is the thing, though. That's probably why you love it so much. It is about if you're out of balance, you're going to topple over,
Yep.
right? So it is the adrenaline rush and the excitement, but at the same time, it's a challenge of your balance.
And the focus,
Hmm.
when you're operating a piece of machinery like that,
Yeah.
the mind gets to drive the machine.
Yes.
Then you get to have this really wonderful dialogue,
Mm.
spirit,
Yeah.
your consciousness.
Yeah.
And so many things are discovered for me in riding on the motorcycle, because
Hmm.
my mind is doing this, and you
Yeah.
have to focus. You have to stay deeply focused.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like that when I go for a drive.
Yes.
It's the mind already knows what it needs to do. It's had all the training. It's been driving for a long time. The instincts are there to respond to whatever happens, and I can just let the spirit fly and just enjoy what it wants to enjoy. Very often, out will come a song,
Yep.
not the radio, me. And it's like, oh, this is interesting as I'm singing it. And it's just an expression of setting yourself free, right? It's who cares if somebody's driving next to you and watching you singing your heart out.
Ah,
Generally what they do is smile, and it might be invite them to start singing themselves. It's stop worrying about what other people are thinking about you. Just experience the experience.
and that's the beauty of being
Yeah.
in the heart,
Yeah.
because now you're in your own world.
Mm.
And what I'm beginning to notice is that you can go out into the external world, in your world,
Yeah.
and you are literally invisible to most people.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to hit people that are on the same wavelength, that are on the same frequency, then the same vibe as you. Those are the people that will see you, that will hear you,
That matter.
that matter. You will also get, and I will be honest with this, the piranhas that want your energy,
Yes.
that try and attach to it. And if you're up this is something I had to learn the hard way. I resonate now at a certain frequency. They try, but they're hitting the bottom and they're not going
Yep.
to go any further.
Yep.
Before I was I would go down to try and reach them. And what they would do is just pull me down with them.
Yep.
Right now, it is I'm here to help you rise up, but you got to meet me.
Yep.
Otherwise, we can't connect.
We can't.
Hmm.
And what I was really, tuning into there is, you are absolutely correct. When we go out into the world and we stay in our heart center,
Yeah,
that is, that deflects all lower frequency.
exactly. But
It
it
wants
also invites
all
other
kinds of.
people. Oh, I know. Isn't it wonderful the people you get to meet just randomly because the heart connection is there?
That's where life becomes
Yes.
spontaneous
And exciting.
and very exciting. But to be in your heart space and go out in the world, you can see both worlds at one time. And
Yeah.
that is very interesting.
Yeah. I have learnt more and feel more, and I'm more at home and more centered with my core at going the slower pace
Yeah.
and just living life inch by inch, where I used to have to run and chase the yards, and now it's I don't give me the highway
Mm-mm.
unless it's beautiful and I can sing and let my body just go. But those windy roads, those back roads of life, those are wonderful journeys. When I look back to when I did a great deal of traveling, and I love traveling on my own, I would get to meet people and be invited into their homes and experience their lives. And that's what the traveling was about for me. Yes, I saw some tourist destinations, but it was about the people. And if you're open to receiving those people because your heart is there and with their hearts, they invite you in, it is just so exciting, to explore their world. Um, and I loved that experience that I did, and I wish I could do more of it now. But it is, it's again that just being willing, that willing to experience and explore and have a wonderment about you. Get out ahead. Don't let the head dictate when, now I should be here and I should be doing this and I got to meet those people and got to that. I have met more people, more beautiful, beautiful, beautiful people just by being. And somebody comes and sits next to you at the park bench, right?
Mhm.
And you strike a conversation, and it might be just for a moment, or it might be something that leads to something, but it's all significant because I allowed and I was willing to immerse myself into that energy. And it's so much more fulfilling. And it's so, I'm using an abundant of universal energy, but you're never tired from that energy.
No.
It's just like I'm vibrating at a warm glow.
And I agree with you is that uh, I only want to do one thing at a time.
Yeah,
Most,
immerse
most
yourself into it.
yeah, multitasking
Yeah,
is uh, there's no need for it.
right. We've been there, we've done that. We know, the emphasis was on the multitasking and you've got to have this experience and you've got to rush to the next one. And, you're writing your book right now and you go back into hindsight and look how much I missed because I was in such a rush to get through life.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Yeah.
And in writing this book, um, I started it in December, and here it is March, and I'm almost done because
Mm,
it's one thing at a time. That's,
yes.
that's my focus right now,
Yes.
is to finish that. And then the universe will let me know the next.
It's interesting because, I've been told to write a book and been told there's books in me that need to come out. And it was always, well, I'll write from this perspective and I'll write from that one. And then it's like, but sorry, you're already writing it. Every week I do a show. I write a blog and do a show around it, or I do a show and write the blog. It's my perception of what's going on in life. The chapters are already there.
Yep.
And so all I need to do is just put them together in some form of order and choose a few chapters out of 350 shows. Um, but I found, I know I didn't want to write it from, this is my life, rather that this is my perception of life, my observation of life, my own self-discovery, um, because I've already spent that part of my life. I've let it go already.
Yep.
And so, it's now more the observations and what helped me in my own self-discovery and helped me be the person that I am today. So that's the book for me.
Yep. And um, when I write this, as I'm writing this book, it is more about what I have learned.
Yes.
These are the teachings from those
Yes.
experiences. And I've been gifted with an array of experiences,
Mm-hmm.
which allows me to relate to a lot of people um, from these experiences. But the teaching, the mirroring from from these experiences,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe we are the creator, and we are the one, and we create these people so that we can see ourselves,
See ourselves and share ourselves.
see and share.
Yeah. And is the book just writing itself? Do you find it just
Ah,
coming right out? You're not thinking, it's just coming.
it just comes.
Yeah. Then you
Like
read after it and go, whoa, really?
I write with pen and paper because that's the way it flows from spirit, is through the pen and paper. And when I go back and transcribe it into a Word document, that's when I start to go, wow,
Yeah.
what I've, this is what is the truth. And I can sit down and write a chapter in 2 hours, and it
Hmm.
can be somewhere between 7 and 10,000 words. That's how quick it comes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing interesting for me, because I'm dyslexic and writing was, so it was very frustrating for me because it would be come out in the wrong order. And when I first got a computer at the age of 46, and I started writing my articles and I could correct it, that is actually truly when my expression really came out because the frustration wasn't in the way. Uh, and so it is, yes, I know an awful lot of people say the hand to paper is the way to do it. Not for me. So if it's not for you, it may be your voice is the writing and you'll transcribe it, or the writing becomes your voice. And it doesn't matter. There isn't a wrong or right way. It's just a way. Do it. Express yourself, get it out there in some form or other.
Mm. And the spirit wants to express.
Yes.
The spirit wants to be expressed. And that has been deconditioned out of us also from living in the mind. And that self expression, um, it surprises me what
Mm.
comes out.
You don't need permission anymore. You're just in flow. But when you're only in the mind, you're constantly seeking permission. It's like, well, if I say this or react this way, how will it be perceived?
That's right.
You become a prisoner of those expectations, of that dictation. And that's where the confusion comes in. And this is why people escape to alternative meditation and self-destruction and everything else, because they've lost that ability to express themselves, because they've been suppressed. And it is facing that suppression and saying, no, I will no longer be silent. And I have no idea what's coming out. It could be literally gobbledygook until it becomes words of clarity. And that's okay. I'll do that sometimes when I'm doing a spot, because I'll just put on the thing and do a spot, and the words are getting jumbled over each other. They're being dyslexic. So I'll just go into, and I don't know what I'm saying. I know it's galactic speak, but it just, whew, it lets that out. I've said something in some form of universal language, and now, everything's fallen into place and I can speak. So don't look for the articulation of your words to come out all profoundly. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't matter if it's gibberish, and it will form a rhythm where the clarity in the words will come.
That, that's very true. It will come when it's ready to come.
Yeah.
And that's like anything in our life.
Yeah.
It's all going to come in due time. And what I have learned the most, I'm probably one of the most impatient people there is.
I used to be.
Well, yeah, and even now that's being taught to me in
Yes.
writing this book,
Hmm.
and also taught in when it's time for me to step out again. And I want to thank you so much for connecting and bringing this opportunity, because I don't think you realize I haven't spoken publicly since last July. I went into my process and my relationship with social media shifted,
Hmm.
and I felt this retreat inward.
Hmm.
But I also was feeling over and this is my own spirit speaking to me.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yes.
And the mind was going, but what am I going to talk about?
You sit on your butt. That's the only
And
thing a butt is good for.
and I'm sitting, and that's exactly what the presence of the heart
Mm.
is we've done all the work.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yes.
And
Open
really,
up those wings now.
really, if I just want to sit here on my butt from here on
Right.
out, that's probably the most important thing I can do.
Yeah.
But there's a desire to express. So when you and I got called together for
Mm-hmm.
this, it was, oh, what's the topic going to be?
Mm-hmm.
It was perfect for me,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
perfect.
No. It's a perfect topic. You just basically sent me a line, and yeah, that's it. And we refer to it and we talk about it in so many shows, but today was more the poignancy of literally the ABCs of it, and how important it is, to use your mind in conjunction with your heart and soul. That on its own, it is never going to serve you. It has to be ignited with the heart and soul in order for you to understand your wisdom, understand your truth, and understand what's relevant. Because, this is all the skills and the tools are up here. But if you don't have the wisdom, you don't know how to use it properly. And that's when you get running around with the I should I would I and become susceptible to that conditioning of society. But I like everyone, just please step back and look at society and tell me how functional it is.
Right.
Is it working for you? And if the answer is a slight no, it's time to open up the heart, ignite that heart and soul, get proactive.
Like my 10-year-old grandson said, he said, Grandma, I don't fit in.
Don't fit in. You're not
I
meant to.
don't.
Yeah.
And I said, he somewhat gets bullied because he has a kind heart.
Yeah.
And he cares about other people.
Yeah.
And he gets made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that you have a big heart. And sometimes that makes people feel uncomfortable because that's where God is doing his work.
Yeah.
He's shining through you. And the light, what I've noticed about my own gift of the light, is it shines the light on the non-truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say non-truth, I mean it's going to shine the light on the lie that you're telling yourself.
That's one of the first things I ever say to people when I'm counseling is, you've been lying to yourself all this time. Don't beat yourself up. You didn't know anything else. But now you know you've been lying to yourself. Don't you want your truth?
And the truth isn't that you are wrong, not enough. You did it wrong, because
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way. We all have choices.
Yes.
And there's not consequences to those choices. Those choices create a journey. You just decided to take a side road.
Right. Right. Or, foot to the pedal on the highway, missing all of the cues along the way.
Yep.
Right. And oh gosh, I've got to turn around and go back. Do it all over again. Right. So, or you get that flat tire and it's like, oh, frustration, flat tire. No. It was just telling you to pause. Yeah, that's we don't pause enough. We, don't just, we see a lot of older people sitting on the benches by the water or in the park. And if you stop to have a conversation with them, it is so profound. And, we think, they're just old, they're slow, they can't do much. No, they appreciate the moment, the gift of the present. They're taking everything in that gratitude, in that memory, and in the delight of the now. And we could learn so much from them if we decided just to sit next to them and start a conversation.
In the moment, in the present.
Yes.
In being in the heart.
Yes.
It's the only place you can be present.
The only place. There's no other option. And you take that heart presence in everything you do. You can still do social media and do everything else, but you do it from that place of heart. And the algorithm will change considerably. You will invite other hearts and you will find your heart tribe. And you will find that the conversations and the interactions that you're having are so much more profound, and that there is a community. I don't know how many times I've called on my community for prayers for various members of the family, recently my daughter giving birth. And it's just been wonderful how many people have stepped up. I'm praying, or I'm sending my love and blessings, and every single one of those, even if it only took a moment, is an energy that is being shared. And I know firsthand the difference that that makes. So yes, we're in a cyber world nowadays, and it's not evil. It's like money. Money can do so much good, but it also could do so much bad. It all depends on whose mind's it in, whose hands it's in. So it's the same with the social media. It's the same with if you're Zooming someone instead of sitting and having a coffee next to them. It is all about, where's that heart energy signature? Where's the pure intent of your conversation, of what you're doing? So it makes such a difference, doesn't it?
It makes such a difference. And when you're talking about using the heart when we present ourselves on social media, I think the truth can even be seen more clearly.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com, and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.